First, we have Dr. John Snyder from SRTR. He is going to talk about some of the amazing metrics that they're working on, and we are just happy to have him here. I will let you get started, and then I will introduce each one separately.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. I'll bring up my slides, and while I'm doing so, I just want to thank the team at Transplant Families for the chance to be with you today. Yeah, as Melissa said, my name is John Snyder. I serve as the director of the Scientific Registry of Transplant Recipients, which is housed inside of the Hennepin Healthcare Research Institute in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So it's just great pleasure to be with you all today. And as I hope you feel throughout my presentation, our role in the Scientific Registry of Transplant Recipients is to provide data to the public about the transplant system as a whole in the United States, but also specific information about specific transplant programs and organ procurement organizations. And this is something we take incredibly seriously, and we have had a renewed push recently to find ways to engage more directly with our community, in particular the patients. And so that's why I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to be with you today. I'm just gonna, first off, my disclosures. I'm thrilled to be a member of the board of directors of Donate Life America and the Alliance, serving our transplant community as a whole. And I serve on the clinical policy board of LifeSource, which is the organ procurement organization of Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. And I participate in the editorial boards of the American Journal of Transplantation and the Transplantation. As a director of the SRTR, this is a federal contract, but I always like to point out that these are my own views and not necessarily reflective of those of the U.S. government. With that said, let's just move in to what I'm hoping to share with you today. I want to give a brief background about the SRTR if you haven't had a chance to visit our website or to understand what we're about, just to make sure that you're aware of that and what our role is in providing data to the public about the transplant system in the United States. And then just to end with an opportunity for you all to engage with us. We have been trying to find ways to better engage directly with the patients that we're trying to serve. And so there's a great opportunity this summer actually for you all to engage with us. Just by way of quick background, established way back in 1984 through the National Organ Transplant Act, was the scientific registry, they called it, where in the law it said that the secretary shall, by grant or contract, develop and maintain a scientific registry of the recipients of organ transplants. And the registry shall include such information respecting patients and transplant procedures as the secretary deems necessary to an ongoing evaluation of the scientific and clinical status of organ transplantation. I've always thought it's a bit of a misnomer in the law that it says the recipients of organ transplants. Of course, there's all of our candidates that are awaiting transplant. We exist to serve them as well. And so it's really that we take as broad of a picture as we can of the transplant system and try to provide as much information as we can throughout that process. Once this was established, as it said in the law, it was held or operated under federal contract. And this just is meant to show the flow within the U.S. federal government, within the Health Department of Health and Human Services. We have the Health Resources and Services Administration, within which is the Health Systems Bureau. And there's a division of transplantation. And that division lets out two primary contracts in the field of solid organ transplantation. Many of us are familiar with the United Network for Organ Sharing, and we'll have the opportunity to hear from Kim Uccellini coming up here, and the wonderful work they do operating the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network, or the OPTN. And then the SRTR, the Scientific Registry of Transplant Recipients, operated by my team at the Hennepin Healthcare Research Institute. We really are a partner contract to UNOS to help both provide data and to help the decision makers within the OPTN. We do a lot of analytics to support policy development processes as well. So that's sort of the federal government structure of the two operations. There was a final rule published that listed some reporting requirements. I obviously won't go through all of them, but I think I've tried to pull just two excerpts from that talks about the type of data that the SRTR should be making available to the public. Specifically, the final rule says that the scientific registry shall make available to the public timely and accurate program-specific information on the performance of transplant programs, and that this shall include free dissemination over the internet and shall be presented, explained, and organized as necessary to understand, interpret, and use the information accurately and efficiently. Our team has been operating the SRTR for about 12 years, and we are in a constant state of trying to make it better and trying to learn from the people using our website and the data that we have, and how can we do that better. So I've been proud of some of the advances we've made in presentation of the data. I'm just going to give some brief snippets about where you can find the information and what types of information are there. This is just some imagery here from our website. You can find us at srtr.org. And within there, you can find both organ procurement organization statistics. That's what's shown on the left here for the 57 organ procurement organizations that serve the United States. When you get into that area of our reports, you'll see this map, and it's an interactive map, and you can click in there and visit the area of the country that's of interest to you, and you'll find a lot of information in there about how those OPOs are functioning with the deceased donors that they're procuring in those areas of the country for our transplant patients. And on the right here, I have an example of Ohio State University's transplant program, just a random one that I picked, and I'll dig into a bit more how this actually operates. But you can see this is just a broad snapshot of what you'll find when you navigate to one of our transplant program reports within our website. So just get into some specifics about that. This is a current snapshot of our homepage, and you'll see highlighted in the banner with the magnifying glass is our Task 5 initiative. I'll talk more about that in a moment. That'll be an opportunity for you all to engage with us as well as we think about how we can make the data better and more useful for all of you. But notice at the top of the screen, this is the main web page. We always have right at the top of the screen is this find and compare transplant programs. And so what happens is you can go into that and choose the organ of interest. I've selected heart here just as an example. And then if you choose to, you can enter a zip code or a program name if you happen to know it, and it will search for that specific program. If you enter a zip code, it will search based on programs near that zip code. But you don't have to. That box there is optional, and I've just left that blank for now. And if I click on search, I will get the transplant center search results that are shown below. And before I zoom down further in terms of what results are shown, I'll just point out that you can then also, again, enter a center name, or here you can enter a location, and you can choose how many miles you want to search from your home zip code. If that's of use to you, again, you don't have to do this, but that's one way you can narrow down your searches for transplant programs. And then you can select a state if you wish to just view all transplant programs within a specific state. We've tried to make many options available for you to refine your search and find the programs that you're looking for. And then finally, to the right there where it says recipient, I've chosen pediatric here just to return a search of transplant hospitals that do pediatric heart transplants. And then if you would click update, you would get the results. It will list out in order all of the transplant programs that do pediatric heart transplants. And this is just the top 2 in the list currently as it's returned if you do a national search. I'll just point out a few things here. There's a distance column that both says NA right now. That's because I didn't enter a zip code. If I had entered a zip code, it would tell me the distance that center is from where the center of the zip code that you entered. It tells you how many children, and because I chose pediatric, this says how many children they did that type of transplant in the previous year. And then we have these 3 tier ratings that we call them that give us, we look at 3 key metrics in their transplant outcomes currently: survival on the wait list, getting a transplant faster, and first-year heart transplant survival. Just a few words about this. The search results will default sort by this metric of getting a transplant faster. For each of the organ types, the SRTR analyzes which of these factors impacts overall patient survival the most. In heart transplant, it happens to be getting a transplant quickly while you're on the list. And so it's going to sort by this first, but we also have these evaluations for survival on the wait list, as well as first-year post-transplant survival. And so if you want to sort by any other column, say which programs do the most children or pediatric heart transplants, you could click on that header and it would sort in that order as well. But just so you understand how the default sort works, it's going to look at that list and say which of these programs has the highest rating for getting their transplant fastest. If you do click into any program of choice, I've just chosen Stanford Children's Hospital here as an example. You would get a map of where the program is located, and then I've highlighted here the pediatric heart transplant summary for that program. How many transplants did they do in the previous year? And again, we see that survival on the wait list, etc. If you scroll down this page, there's a number of data points available and graphics about their experience on the wait list, as well as their experience post-transplant. For example, there's a waitlist overview, and this happens to include both pediatric patients and adult patients that are done at the program. If they happen to have some patients that were over the age of 18, although they were being transplanted at the pediatric program, those would be included here. So we see what happens to their waitlist over a year's worth of time, and 17 people were initially on the list in that year, and then at the end of the year there were 15 people, and you can see for those that were removed why they were removed below. And you'll see the tabs at the top of the screen here. If you want to look at that program's organ offer acceptance practices or more detail about their transplant procedures or their transplant outcomes, you can go into those sections as well. I'm just going to pick one out of the transplant outcomes section. And here we have their first year, this is a 3-year evaluation of their patient survival data 3 years after transplant for their pediatric heart recipients. And you can see if you just focus on the dots below, the orange dots are all other programs doing pediatric heart transplants. And the blue dot happens to be Stanford. And what's being shown here is a relative rate of patient death at the program compared to what we would expect for the types of patients they were doing. So below 1 means better than expected outcomes, and above 1 means higher rates of patient death than we would expect. And so you can find all that information there as well. So where's an opportunity for you all to get involved and help us to make this better? What types of data can we present to you that would be most helpful? SRTR is hosting a consensus conference this summer called People-Driven Transplant Metrics. We are trying to gather about 200 people. We do have opportunities coming available for scholarships to support patient travel to the meeting. The meeting's being held in Minneapolis. I'll show you more detail there in a moment. If you wish to participate or learn more information about this, please email us at srtr@srtr.org, and we would be happy to talk with you about potentially attending. We're particularly trying to get some pediatric family representation at this meeting, but any patients in general, we are certainly trying to focus on that as well. The venue is the Radisson Blu at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. And again, we have about 200 rooms reserved for this conference. So please get in touch with us if you would like to participate in that process. Once we hear those recommendations, we do have a human-centered design initiative underway within the SRTR program where we're trying to make graphics and tools a lot more engaging for families and patients seeking transplant. Here's just one example that we've been working on as part of a tool that is trying to help explain how the organ offer process works to potential transplant recipients. So we're looking to do much more things like this in the future as well. With that, I will stop, and certainly thank you again to Melissa and the team at Transplant Families for the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. This is a wonderful toolkit for families, and thank you for kind of seeking our opinion in developing this toolkit. It will certainly help us make a more educated decision and hopefully save lives. So I think this is truly amazing what you're offering, and I can only imagine all of the work that went into it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you, John. And make sure to email John at that email that was presented. We'll flash it up here in a second for you to see. They really do want our feedback for the toolkits are making. And so I encourage all parents to email and get involved. It's a really, really great cause. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Kim Uccellini. She is the policy analyst and for UNOS and a pediatric transplant recipient, which is double wow. So thank you so much, Kim, for joining us. Oh, let's see, you're on mute. So
can you see my slides, or are they posted?
Let's see. They popped off, but we can just talk a second here while I get them back up. So thank you so much for joining us. And let's see, let me pull up these slides. We've been really depending on everyone's patience today, and we're just so thankful for everyone and how amazing. Oh, I already had them up. There they are.
All right. Can you back up to the first slide, Melissa?
Yes, ma'am. You got it.
Thank you. So, yes. Melissa, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I wanted to thank transplant families for inviting me to speak on behalf of the United Network for Organ Sharing, where I'm actually a manager now in the Policy and Community Relations Department. I've worked here for 7 years, and as Melissa acknowledged, she sort of stole my thunder. I do happen to be a pediatric transplant recipient now 33 years out. So I am happy to share a little bit more about the United Network for Organ Sharing's role as the organ procurement and transplantation network, kind of in a mouthful. But the focus is really going to be about how you all can get involved and share your stories to influence change. I have no disclosures, and what you'll see, the content on this following slides, is my take on the process and not necessarily reflective of the government's views on these topics. All right, so what you'll learn today, I hope, is what the Organ Procurement or Transplantation Network is and what we do. John kindly teed up quite nicely, sort of at a high level, how we function within the government network or framework, if you will. I'm going to focus most of my time on how you can influence change via volunteer service, and then touch on some other ways to get involved. And there is a bit of a lag here, so I apologize. All right, so let's start with what the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network is. I'm going to shorthand it for the rest of this presentation and just refer to it as the OPTN. Starting with what you see here on the slide. So the OPTN network, again, I'm leaning heavily on John, who teed up sort of how it all started and how we function with our sister contractor in relation to HRSA and the government. What it actually is a membership network, if you will, of donation and transplantation professionals involved in the U.S. In our donation and transplant system in this country. We act through a board of directors and a committee governance system, which I'll touch on here a little bit more in a subsequent slide, to develop bylaws, which are membership requirements, and transplant policies, operational rules, if you will, that govern the OPTN. And so for most of this presentation, when I refer to transplant policy, those are the policies that our members, transplant hospitals, organ procurement organizations, and histocompatibility labs have to follow to perform transplants in our country. It's not the laws and regulations that are being passed at sort of the federal level, if you will. And so who is UNOS and how do we fit into all of this? So UNOS was incorporated as an independent nonprofit organization in March 1984. We were awarded the initial contract to administer the OPTN in 1986 to develop the requirements for operations of the OPTN. And we've served as the OPTN, fortunately, ever since. So UNOS, serving as the OPTN, manages the National Transplant Waiting List, matching donors to recipients 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And as I previously mentioned, this network of members, again, who need to be part of this network to perform transplants in this country, include transplant hospitals, organ procurement organizations, or OPOs, and histocompatibility labs. There are also some other categories of members. So we have health organizations such as the National Kidney Foundation. We have some general public members such as ethicists, donor family members, recipients. And then we have medical professional and scientific organizations such as the American Society for Transplantation. All right. All right, so in this slide, I want to kind of cover a little bit about our committee governance system, because it is one way to get involved with UNOS in our role as the OPTN. So as you see here, to orient you, you have our OPTN board of directors. There's a couple subcommittees of that board. And then we have some operational committees that have broader purview over a lot of different things that we oversee. And then there, far on the right, is all of our policy development committees. And I understand that that is probably super hard to read, so I tried to blow it up a little bit. We have about 22 standing committees. A few are ad hoc, but most are permanent standing committees. And per our final rule, or per the final rule and our bylaws, patients must be included in the policy development process, including our board of directors, who have ultimate decision-making authority in approving donation and transplantation policy. So if you were interested in policy development, again, policy being how transplant programs, organ procurement organizations, and histocompatibility labs have to operate, the rules they have to follow to perform transplants in this country, including allocation rules. I put sort of a blurb down there on who you can contact to learn more information on how to apply to be on a committee. All right, moving on. So in our role as the OPTN, one of our core function is, again, policy development. And we have established a process so that when we are developing policy, no matter what committee you sit on, no matter what role you play in the grand scheme of things, we're all sort of following the same steps to thoughtfully and thoroughly deliberate ideas, to vet them through a problem analysis, get to evidence gathering, et cetera. I won't read you all the slices of what we call the policy pie. But I did want to touch on, again, a couple additional ways that you all can get involved. So if you see there at the top of the wheel, you have the idea phase. And that's really where we are intaking problems and challenges that the transplant and donation community face or encounter. And those ideas can come from all over the place. They can come from, staff, but they can also come from our partners at any of the societies. Even the SRTR can come from members of the general public, whether you have a direct tie to transplant or you're a caregiver. Regional meeting feedback, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. Government mandates and directives, mentioned professional societies, new technology. And then again, general public can include patients, of course, or as I mentioned, caregivers of patients. So when we intake and consider a problem, it starts there at the top of the wheel. And then one of those committees that I highlighted on the previous slide, I'll use the kidney committee as an example. They'll consider an idea, and when they are walking through it and it enters the problem analysis phase, they're asking a lot of questions. Is this truly a problem? What data do we have to support our perception that there is a problem or not? Is this a regional problem? Is it something that only one region of the country grapples with? Is this something that a unique transplant center is grappling with, and maybe it's not a system level issue? Is it a perception issue and maybe doesn't need a policy solution, et cetera? So it goes through a lot of deliberations before it goes through some approval processes and enters what we call evidence gathering phase. And so that is where the committees are sort of heads down, working with our partners at the SRTR to review analyses both by them and our colleagues in our research department. They are asking all types of questions again at this phase to ensure that we are crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and we're looking at the problem from a lot of different angles and perspectives, right? So what might be a problem to a transplant program might not be or seem to be a problem to a patient. and vice versa. So after that, it goes through a phase called public comment, which I'm going to talk about here a little bit in a minute. After that period of open public comment where anyone can weigh in, it goes ultimately to our board of directors who will consider it. And if they approve it, it will move on to be implemented. All right, so let's talk a little bit about public comment. So it could be that some of you are very familiar with our public comment process, or our policy development process, which includes public comment. There are federal public comment periods, and so our process is modeled sort of as a lightweight version of that. So our entire board cycle in which they consider potential policy proposals for approval kind of rotates around 2 public comment cycles. We have one in the late summer into fall, and then another one, I'd say, midwinter into early spring. And public comment is when the sponsoring committee goes out and seeks feedback on, the solutions that they propose to fix whatever, the problem is that they're trying to solve. Again, any member of the public can weigh in here. You don't have to be already in our committee system or already volunteering. We do have a way to comment via the OPTN website, and I do have that link right there. We do proactive outreach to key stakeholders, including the professional societies, but also other health organizations. If we're working on a kidney policy, it's likely we're going to reach out to the National Kidney Foundation and others. If we're working on a pediatric policy, we're going to see if there are any pediatric specific organizations that we can reach out to get their perspective. And then, of course, we actually do have an entire pediatrics committee. So I would say that you all are relatively well represented for a somewhat small population. So, and then the committees will all hear proposals, and the regional meetings is actually where we kind of go out, and it's sort of like our roadshow. So the next slide shows a picture of our current regions, and we have a meeting, sort of like a town hall, in every one of these regions during our public comment period. And anyone, they are open to the public. Anyone can attend. Anyone can stand up and share a comment. Again, kind of like your local town halls, if your local government does those sorts of things. And then this is really is an opportunity to influence policy proposals. So caring for a pediatric candidate or post-transplant as a recipient, you have the power to participate in this process, whether directly as a volunteer during the development of a policy proposal, but even when we're kind of putting it out to see how the community reacts to it. All public comment, every single one, every single individual public comment is reviewed by the sponsoring committees. If you attend one of these meetings, it is helpful to provide specific actionable feedback to the sponsoring committee. But the committees want to hear what concerns you and why. Do you have data to kind of back things up? And of course, if there are pieces of the proposal you don't like, what are the pieces that you do like, if any? Oftentimes, I'd say the committees do have specific feedback questions that they put out there for the general public and the community to consider. And so even if you don't answer them on the floor of a regional meeting, it's something to kind of help you as you go through and review these policy proposals. So again, they're held twice a year. Sorry, I think the system has flipped me back. They are held twice a year. Again, open to the public. Another way to get involved if serving on a committee isn't quite your thing, or if you just want to test the waters. All right, so moving on. All right, so another way to get involved is to listen to, I included board of directors meeting here because as we kind of follow the wheel and the process around, that would sort of be the next opportunity. Board meetings open to the public. There are a few portions that may be closed sessions, but by and large, The public comment portions of the board meetings are open. You can listen in. You can hear, what questions the board have for the sponsoring committees. Our board is quite large. It's made up of 41 or 42 members representing all areas of the transplant community, including patients and donor family members. They will review the proposals sponsored by the OPTN committees and decide whether the proposal should be approved or not. So again, they kind of bookend, if you will, these public comment cycles. So these public comment cycles always end with a board meeting. Those board meetings happen in June and December. Again, open to the public. I don't have contact information to share how you can kind of log in and link it, but I do have my contact information at the end if anyone is interested in contacting me about it. All right, so I focused the first part of this presentation pretty heavily on how you can participate in the OBTN's policy development process. Policy development isn't for everyone. I recognize that. So we do have a couple other ways that you can volunteer with UNOS and get involved and have a voice sort of in the donation context. So we have community volunteers called UNOS ambassadors. They are volunteers and advocates who raise awareness and educate the public about organ donation and transplantation kind of generally, sharing their stories. Many, if not most, have a direct connection to organ donation or transplantation. So they include candidates, recipients, donor family members, living donors, caregivers, and then just registered organ donors who feel quite passionately about this. They do a lot of different things, anything from community events and sharing their transplantation journey to kind of promoting and amplifying the organ donation and transplantation message on social media. They do encourage and participate and drum up engagement for public comment. They share information about transplantation trends, and they do fundraising for us as well. A newer aspect of either whether you want to be an ambassador, but you don't have to be to participate and engage in the way that I'm going to share next is by advocating, probably similarly to some of my other colleagues who are on this call, advocating for transplantation and organ donation on the local, state, and federal levels of the government. So we had just recently launched an advocacy program. If my slides will keep up with me. There we go. Where you can receive updates if you sign up to be an advocate, receive updates from UNOS and take direct action when issues arise impacting patients, donors, and donor families in our national transplant system. So by signing up, you'll receive important calls to action and information on other advocacy activities throughout the year. And then, of course, with enough passionate voices advocating on behalf of the donation and transplantation system, we hope to make lasting progress that will impact the lives of many patients and their families. Again, this is a newer program to us. So I have the Get Involved information there. You can either text UNOS or you can go to the unos.org webpage /advocacy. And so I think my main takeaways here are there's a lot of different ways to get involved with UNOS and with the OPTN. You can also sign up, of course, for email updates via Transplant Pro, and of course the advocacy information I just shared. But what I really would like to drive home is, there is a seat for patients and caregivers of patients on every one of our committees. We are actually expanding patient representation on all of our committees. So I would encourage you to consider signing up, applying to be a volunteer there, attending your regional meetings. Again, I don't know that it clicks for patients or the general public until they actually attend a regional meeting and they hear these proposals being presented by members of the sponsoring committee. And then everything kind of falls into place, if you will. Participate in public comment. Again, anyone can do it. You can post anonymously if you don't feel comfortable including your name. It's always actually very helpful to us if you include your relationship to transplant. So if you're the mother of a candidate, if you're a father of a recipient, if you're a living donor to your daughter or son, we always like to ensure that it's crystal clear to us that, you know, you are a member of sort of that patient population. The information I just shared on advocating and ask us questions. There is a lot of different ways to get in contact with folks at UNOS, and I want to make sure that I leave some time for questions if there are any, but also to share my contact information for anyone who might be interested.
Thanks so much, Kim. We appreciate all of your hard work. And I just want to add and support that it's easier now more than ever to be involved with virtual meetings. You can just jump on a computer and be involved with your regional meetings. Hopefully they go forward with hybrid. We're really hopeful for that. And they've just given us so many opportunities to be involved. Videos, you know, explaining policy that was once incredibly complex, and now it's been really written with the patient and family in mind. And we appreciate all of the hard work that's gone into that. So I definitely encourage you to ask questions in the chat, and we'll come around at the end to give some more questions. And that, thank you so much, Kim. We appreciate your time and all the work that you put in for us. All right. Now it's my honor to introduce Hillary Sarda, Vice President for Donate Life. We've all worked together a little bit, so I just love working with this group so much. They're incredibly nice and just well researched. They know our families, you know, well. They know what we go through, and we get to talk about the fun stuff now. National Pediatric Transplant Week. I will let you take charge.
Thanks so much, Melissa. As Melissa, perfect, brings up my slides. I just wanted to say it's great to be with you all today. Thank you so much to transplant families for including me and Donate Life America in this session. I wanted to give a special thanks to Melissa and to Joseph Hillenberg. I don't know if you guys know, I've got this National Pediatric Transplant Week background up, but this week really started as an idea from Melissa and Joseph and all of you to carve out a week within National Donate Life Month to really address and recognize pediatric donation and transplantation. And in just a few short years, this week has become so integral in National Donate Life Month. In the past 2 years, it's been included, mentioned within the White House proclamation for National Donate Life Month. And I just think that is remarkable and wanted to recognize Melissa and Joseph for all of their efforts, as well as our partners in National Pediatric Transplant Week, UNOS, AST, ASTS, ITNS, International Transplant Nurses, and all of transplant families. I also want to thank John and Kim. It is always a joy for me to learn from colleagues, so thanks so much, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Brooke when she comes up next. And with that, I get to move my own slides. So for folks who aren't as familiar with Donate Life America, I just wanted to share with you kind of our overall mission statement. When Joseph came to me and asked me to come and talk today, the ask was to talk about storytelling and awareness. And we know at Donate Life America that storytelling is one of the strongest, the most powerful ways to move someone to take an action. There's a great quote out there just in terms of how we relay information. And John Snyder, I hope don't get angry at me for this, but there's a great quote that talks about we don't tell bedtime facts, we tell bedtime stories, because those are kind of ways we can relate messages and make connections. So I'm going to try to talk to you all today to try and frame a couple of things, this talk around the power of one, the sort of heading for our session, and talking about the power of one national brand and symbol for donation, and how telling that story of donation makes this cause more powerful. And then also how the power of one person can help save lives, and sharing your story through talking about your own individual journey in donation and transplant. So Donate Life America is a quick vision statement. We are committed to increasing the number of donated organs, eyes, and tissues available to save and heal lives, while continuing to develop a culture where donation is embraced as a fundamental human responsibility. We serve as the national voice for the cause of donation. We lead the Donate Life community, that's the professional side of the community, and work to empower and activate the public. Quick, a little bit about us. Again, if you're not as familiar with Donate Life America, we are a nonprofit organization. It's our 30th anniversary this year, founded in 1992, actually born from UNOS, one of the medical advisors at the time, Dr. James Wolfe, recognized that there are so many donation and transplant organizations, it is difficult for the public to focus on the cause. So with 57 organ recovery agencies and hundreds of transplant programs, that's a big ask for the public to remember individual ones or more than one. And so the idea was born first as the Coalition for Donation and then as Donate Life America, to have this one national brand symbol that represents the cause of donation and that all of the professional organizations can use and the public can use to represent support for the cause overall. We work with other national organizations and our Donate Life state teams. We try and direct the outreach and education to increase organ, eye, and tissue donation. We own and administer the national brand and symbol, Donate Life, which you see there. And we also manage the National Donate Life Registry. So it's the National Donor Registry. And we work with great partners around the country to develop multimedia campaigns to educate and promote donation. So starting a little bit with this power of one, this one brand to kind of bring everyone together and tell the donation story. The brand, the symbol of Donate Life, we try and have all of these aspects incorporated into it: honor, hope, trust, unity, gratitude, and celebration. Building public trust around donation is so important when it comes to people feeling comfortable and confident in registering to be a donor. We really want to continue to educate and have this transparency around what Donate Life and donation is all about. And I've talked a little bit about this already, but this sustained, clear, and unifying national representation of donation, the Donate Life brand is also in itself a call to action. We're asking you to donate life, and that symbolism is brought into it. The blue and the green represent kind of the sky and the earth, and that spiral in the middle is a symbol used across many cultures to represent the circle of life. We really work hard to maintain trust and safeguard the integrity of the brand. We have a lot of protections and guards in place because that public trust is so important in preserving the brand and promoting the cause. And this is some of kind of what the power of one can do. When you have that one symbol, people can really rally around it. So I'm sure you guys have seen Donate Life flags, and these are some photos that were sent in over the years to our Blue and Green Day photo contest. I hope everyone had a chance to participate in Blue and Green Day last week. This amazing photo at the bottom, that group, that's the University Transplant Center in San Antonio. And this amazing pie just takes my breath away every time. And a few more just representations of both on the professional side and the public side, how people can come together, this power of one symbol for the national cause of donation, Donate Life. And the reason we do this is, of course, the need. More than 100,000 people are waiting for life-saving organ transplants. We use this symbolism a lot, that even the largest football stadium in the US could not hold the number of patients currently on the national transplant waiting list. Again, it's that storytelling. Just giving a fact may not resonate, but telling a story about it or giving, representing a metaphor, something that people can relate to in their everyday life, really brings that need to life. Every 9 minutes, another person is added to the National Transplant Waiting List. And relevant to our conversation today and Pediatric Transplant Week, 1,900 children are currently on the National Transplant Waiting List. And one organ, eye, and tissue donor can help save and heal more than 75 lives. And that's why our call to action is always to register to be a donor, because donors make transplants possible. There are more than 170 million donor registrations in the US. And a lot of people don't know that more than half of organ donors, deceased organ donors, are authorized by a registry. We talk a lot about family authorization, but for adult organ donors, more than half are authorized because they've already made that decision. They've made that first person authorization and signed up at their local DMV or in the National Donate Life Registry at registerme.org or through their iPhone health app. Speaking of registering, I wanted to just make sure that everyone was aware of all the ways you can register when you're sharing your story to give a call to action. There is the National Donate Life Registry at registerme.org. And this was actually initiated through some feedback we got from Facebook. I don't know if folks remember, about 2012, we had a partnership with Facebook where people could signal on their Facebook profile if they were an organ donor, which was amazing and incredible. And unfortunately, at the time, there wasn't a national Donate Life registry, just state donor registries. And Facebook said that's too much to link out to every state donor registry to register your decision to be a donor. What you really need is one national donor registry, and then that could be something in the future for partnerships to activate people to register. So from that, we worked hard to launch this National Donate Life Registry in 2015, and Facebook was right. It's brought us a lot of wonderful national partnerships through Walgreens. They include the opportunity to register several times a year in their Walgreens app. And we have an incredible partnership with Apple where the opportunity to register is included in the health app on iPhone. And that's been there since iOS 10. So I hope everyone has updated their iPhone. You've got that opportunity to register there. I also wanted to let you all know, I think this was a presentation last year from our president and CEO, David Fleming, letting you all know that we're in phase 3 of launching our National Donate Life Living Donor Registry. So through that same National Donate Life Registry, after registering to be a deceased donor, the goal is nationally, you'll also have the option to register your interest in being a living donor. And if you're already registered to be a deceased donor, there's also a way to enter to just register your interest in being a living donor. That's right now in its phase 3. We're testing in Texas. And so those folks currently who register their decision to be a donor in Texas also get the opportunity to register their interest in being a living donor. And we'll keep you all posted on this progress as it goes forward. And I want to give thanks to the Fresenius Medical Care Foundation, who has helped fund this initiative, and also to our partners in this, UNOS and NKF and LifeLogics. Okay, now we're going to get into the power of one person and how you can help. Of course, always register your decision to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor, and educate and encourage your community to register. We always talk about, and I'll talk about this a little bit in the slides, when you do tell your story, it's so important to include a call to action. If it's to learn more about donation and transplantation, or if it's to register, so important to have something to move towards, that something they can do to help at the end of their story. Other ways you can help and stay engaged, some things that I know we are all so busy. I mean, Kim just outlined some incredible ways to get involved and to help. And some other ways you can also be engaged in promoting the cause is to follow all of our organizations on social media and share some of these facts and stories of hope that are shared. You can also sign up for the DLA e-newsletter that we try and keep everyone updated on observances that are coming and things you can do. And of course, to share your story and the Donate Life story. I also just wanted to share, you don't have to keep track of all these things you can do on our website at donatelife.net. There is, under how you can help, I know that writing's really small, but in the top nav bar, that is the heading, how you can help. And all these things you can do are listed there. So you can find the thing that feels right to you to participate. Oh, hey, and I see a question in the comments, and I'll get to that when we have time at the end. Thank you. Other things you can share, some of these national observances currently, of course, are a National Donate Life Month and a National Pediatric Transplant Week. Earlier this month, it was Donate Life Living Donor Day, and we try and make all of these graphics available, as well as free downloadable posters, coloring pages, fact sheets, whatever you need on our website at donatelife.net. You can also get involved locally. There's a Donate Life state team in every state, and Donate Life state team members are organ recovery agencies, eye banks, tissue banks, hospital partners, DMVs, and all of you, anyone interested in volunteering to do community outreach and share your story. And I just want to touch a little bit on why it's so important, if you feel comfortable in whatever form you feel comfortable, to share your own journey and experiences. And that is that while we don't all share these same experiences, we all do share similar range of emotions and fears and hopes. And those things connect us all. I think there isn't a stronger connection between people than storytelling and those relatable experiences. And it's the stories that we see that move people the most. And in donation and transplantation, there are the most incredible stories to tell. And I just want to thank everyone for sharing your journeys as and when you feel comfortable doing so. And I know you may think, well, if I share my story, who's going to see that, or where does that go? And I stole this from Beth Cantor, who's a wonderful, has written a lot of things on network nonprofits and social media. And it just outlines that even if you really sit down and write out on a piece of paper your networks, I think we're all often surprised at how far-reaching those are. And for every person that you reach, that person reaches their networks. And so it's an incredible exponential web of people that you reach with every message you share. So just if you have a minute and you want to think about that, if you're going to share it with even 3 people, or if you think, oh, I could write down 5 people now, and then you'll realize that those 5 people are connected to all these other people, and on and on. Again, nothing sticks in your head better than a story. And I think I love this quote because I think that it helps to express complicated ideas in the most digestible ways. And there are a lot of complicated pieces in donation and transplant, but it is the stories that bring us all together and help educate. You can also, I did also want to share, you can create your own personal donor drive. I think as we've seen with those networks as well, by sharing things out within your own networks, that is a network of trust. And what we've seen is that people are much more likely to register or to take an action if they hear something from someone that they trust. And within the National Donate Life Registry, if you're registered and you log into your donor record there is an option where you can create your own customized campaign online, and you can add your own art and your own message and share that out as well with any messages or stories that you'd like to share. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for your time. And Melissa, let me know if you'd like us to answer questions now or at the end, or I can address them in the chat.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll let it right to the end if that's okay. Thank you so much, Hillary, for being with us. We love what you do. We love the toolkits. You make everything so easy. I hope that everyone will stick around with us because Brooke has some amazing information as well. She's going to tell us how to make change and with our government and take in protecting our recipients and our donor rights. So we will have a panel at the end, and everyone post your questions in the chat so that we can bring everyone back up, and hope you'll spend a few extra minutes with us while we're able to get this going. Hi, Brooke.
Hello.
It's my honor to introduce you, Brooke Iarkowski. She is the Transplant Community Program Manager for the American Society of Transplantation. And they have done quite a bit of work with our elected officials to help make some real change when it comes to laws protecting our health rights.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. And let me know if you need help with slides. I can help you with that. You have, thank you. There we go. I'll be on.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. And thank you to everyone in Transplant Families. I'm so happy to be here today. I do want to give a little PSA. I apologize for having a t-shirt on. You know, I know you guys can understand, but I am a recipient family. And my mom called me urgently this morning to let me know that, you know, we had to head over to the hospital for some issues that she was having. She's a kidney recipient. So I know you all have been in that situation many times, you know, so we're just trying to do our best to make it work, but I'm really happy to be here today with all of you. So as Melissa said, my name is Brooke Iarkowski. I'm the Transplant Community Program Manager over at AST, or the American Society of Transplantation. And really my main focus today is to talk to you a little bit about the Power to Save initiative and the patient focus that we have moving into this, and everything that you can do to make a difference. So Power to Save was started as an initiative by American Society of Transplantation, and it really is the patient focus that we're looking at here. So I'll get my slides to go. So if you haven't been to the website, it's powertosave.org, and it's going to show you all sorts of educational resources, transplant FAQs, different videos that are posted by our provider group, recipient stories. We also have Spanish resources, and there's also information about the living donor guide that you can have access to. Really, this is going to be your way to learn as much as you can about the transplant process from vetted professionals within the transplant industry. So American Society of Transplantation is a professional organization made up of 4,000 individuals who have experience in the transplant field, doctors, surgeons, pharmacists, whatever you can imagine. And all of our resources are reviewed by them before they're headed to the website. The other thing that we're focusing on quite a bit is really hearing from you directly. So understanding that you may have questions, that our providers may be providing educational resources, but maybe it's not exactly what you're looking for. So what we really want to ask of you and anyone within the transplant field is, if you have questions, please ask them. I work very closely with our provider group, our community education committee, to make sure that we're answering the questions that you have, to understand what you need help with, to guide you through any processes. So if you do have questions, if you would like to ask the expert, we're going to start to open up that form, and you can send me over an email. We're definitely happy to do what we can to give you the information that you need to make sure this process goes as smoothly as possible, because it's incredibly overwhelming. The other thing Melissa had mentioned is some of the legislation that we're working on. So one of the things that AST had originally done was to make sure that Immuno Bill was passed. So the Immuno Bill did get passed just recently. And right now we're focusing very, very much attention on the Living Donor Protection Act. So this is something that we have in our booth, so you can easily get access to this, and we'll make sure that we talk about it a little bit further. But the reality is that we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect our living organ donors within the workplace, and that they're not discriminated against, that they are not prohibited from life and disability and long-term care insurance, and making sure that they have access to FMLA and time to recover when they go on to give that incredible gift. So right now, there's nothing that's a written policy that would make sure that these things are happening. So doing everything we can on a grassroots effort to make sure that that's happening. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys is how you can easily do that. So if you go to our website, myast.org, you click on that Take Action button, you're going to be taken right to this website that's going to auto-populate a letter to your legislator. So this is something that we really, really need help with from everyone who's here today. The more people we have talking about this, the louder noise that we make means the higher likelihood that this legislation is going to get passed, and we can make sure that those who go on to be living donors are protected. So I wanted to share with you this map. So this is going to show you where we have made contact in what states. So the darker the color blue, the more people who have reached out to their local legislators. So as I mentioned, it's incredibly easy. It auto-populates. You are really just going to put in your address, your name, and then it's going to give you all that information. Those letters can be personalized if you want to add your own details about someone you know who's waiting for a transplant, or if you want to go on to give that gift. But really, we just need you to make that initial contact. So as you can see, those grayed states are where we have had no one contact a legislator just yet. So if you could reach out, if you're from one of the Dakotas or Mississippi, Alaska, Hawaii, we really need your help, because really this is going to be a grassroots mission that we have going on here at AST. Additionally, another thing that you can do is to work with your local organization or make some noise about the Living Donor Circle of Excellence. So this is an initiative that's fairly new within AST. And what we're going to be doing is we're partnering with local organizations, companies, whatever it may be, to make sure that they have HR policies about paid compensated leave for people who go on to give the gift of organ donation. So if you take a look at our next slide, what this really means is that it's a corporate recognition program. So we're doing everything we can to work with some members to make sure that they are promoting this, they're talking about this, they're letting their team know that if they go on to give the gift of an organ transplant, then they will not have to take out their own sick time, they will not have to go on unpaid leave, that they are going to help with this process. So you can check out the livingdonorcircle.com to see some of the members that are on there, or if you know of an institution who would be interested in this or who already has a policy in place, we would love to recognize them. This is just a very small group of who we already have involved. And as you can see, it's going to be a lot of healthcare organizations, but we also have Home Depot, Philadelphia Magic Gardens, some pharmaceutical companies are on here. But really, the goal is that every organization is going to have some sort of HR policy in place so that if people go on to give this incredible gift of life, it's not going to impact their work or their financial or home situation in any way, shape, or form. Another easy way to stay involved is to follow us on social media, right? Like Hillary said, to know what's going on and in the know in the transplant field and community, please, we're all over Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We definitely are talking about different activities and initiatives and making sure that you're staying in the know, especially with those grassroots efforts and that Living Donor Protection Act that's going on right now. And finally, guys, I just wanted to share, in addition to what Hillary had mentioned, the biggest way to make an impact truly is sharing your story. And I know that every single one of you watching today has your own story and personal connection to donation and transplantation. So at Power to Save, we have Power Player stories that we share regularly. Right now, we've shared a few about Pediatric Transplant Week, but the reality is that is what makes the most impact. It's sharing that personal connection. I can't tell you how many people I've known for so many years who don't know that you have this connection to donation and transplantation until you start talking about it. And the reality is that recipients tend not to talk about it because they don't want to take anything for granted. They don't want to brag about things. They don't want to talk about their sickness. But that is what makes the most impact. And you guys have this incredible opportunity to talk about this and make sure that we're promoting it, whether it's through DLA, UNOS, AST. Really, I always say, if there is someone willing to listen to me talk about my story, then I want to share it. Because if it changes even just one person's mind about registering to be an organ donor, then I've accomplished. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. I'll put some of those links in the comments if my colleagues haven't already. And thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks so much for being with us, Brooke. We appreciate it greatly. I encourage everyone to put any last minute questions in the chat. We'll have timer for one or two. Also, each of these organizations have booths with us today. So you can go and visit their booth and write a message of support or a question, and we will make sure to pass it along to the leadership that was represented here today. We'll go ahead and bring up the panel really quickly. And let's see, go ahead and take that one. All right. And Kim had to run off for some other official duties, but we promise that any questions that you have for her, we will pass along. So we are so grateful. I just want to add that to our families that are listening, anyone that wants to tell their story, and sometimes we've told it to reporters of different papers and they've gotten details wrong. This group never gets it wrong. So I encourage anyone that has never shared their story before and is thinking about it to please go and share it with one of these groups. They will take such care with your story to make sure it's told correctly and with compassion, and to pass forward the sentiment that you really want to pass forward. So I just wanted to encourage that really quickly. Sharing your story is one way of volunteering. You can also volunteer your time, you can give. So thank you all for what you do. I just want to make comments. Let's see if we have any questions here in the chat. Okay, so we've got some great links. Let's see, and let me check the chat up here. Yep. Hillary's Doing great. It's hard.
I know Brooke didn't have access to the chat, guys, so I put those over
Right?
for her.
Not all of us have access to the chat, but Hillary's doing an amazing job helping us out here. Thank you so much. And that's what I love about this group is that we all pitch in and help each other out. That's what we do. So John, do you have any last minute words about how to get involved with the Consensus 5 project?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best way right now, we're trying to fill in a lot of patient or family attendees right now. And so we're really seeking, people that want to be involved with what type of metrics would best be, how can we best help you is the question we're asking. Whether or not we have the data today to do so or not, we really are looking to create a broad list of topics that we can try to address in the coming years. Our goal is to bring people together about once every 3 years to see how we're doing and try to improve. And so just email us at srtr@srtr.org, and we'd be happy to get you information or send you a link to register as well. We have transplant professionals will be there as well. So we already have a number of physicians, surgeons, nurses, different professionals within transplant programs and OPOs that are registered, and we just want to make sure that we have that patient voice there as well. So yeah, please do reach out to us for any information you might want about that.
Thank you for including us as parents. We greatly appreciate it, and hopefully we can get there and be able to contribute some of those amazing tools you're building. Hillary, do you have any last words?
Just thank you so much for allowing us all to be here. I think the idea for this session started in an early conversation around Pediatric Transplant Week, and just so glad that it could come together. And I think for all of us, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out after the session. We're always happy to answer, and we so appreciate you being here. I know it's 5 o'clock Eastern, so especially as parents, being here at this time on a Thursday is just we recognize that time you've given. So thank you.
You make the call to action very easy, and we thank you for that. Keep bringing those wonderful toolkits with the graphics. I know so many parents are using them, and we appreciate them greatly. Brooke, any last words?
Yeah, I just really wanted to say thank you. I think to everyone who's here today, I want to echo Hillary. I know it's a lot to jump on and be a part of this. It's also a lot emotionally. It takes a toll listening to all of these sessions and knowing every little bit that goes into it. Melissa and Joseph, thank you guys for everything that you do. You have been just an absolute pleasure to work with. And echoing John and Hillary and Kim again, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's why we're here. That's why we love this. It's people who work in the transplant field absolutely love what they do at their core. I always like to make the joke, it's close to my heart, it's closer to my kidneys, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions and just be someone to listen. Sometimes that's all you need.
That's so true. And thanks for making it easy to contact our senators and elected officials. That's huge. I will thank Kim, even though she's not here, for letting us get involved with policy. I think that's a hugely important part of this whole puzzle. And thank you all for being here with us today. And a final shout out to the rest of the planning committee. Thank you, Jill and Sarah and Taylor. We couldn't have done this without you and our other volunteers. You all make this possible. So we hope that we'll see you tomorrow. There are more sessions. If you can't join us, they will be recorded. Thank you. You can watch these at any time, and we hope to get them all out for you soon. Thank you for your time today, John, Brooke, and Hillary. We appreciate it greatly.
Thanks
for having us.